It's Never That Deep podcast. Yes, you heard that right, guys. You know, I am a big endorser of endorsing things that will endorse me back. So, you know what? Why don't you take a gander at the It's Never That Deep podcast featuring Omar and Fanoo? It's a great comedy improv podcast. You're maybe wondering, why the hell am I telling you guys about a podcast when I've never directly endorsed a podcast on this podcast? You know why? Because that's what we do. As peers in this tough field of podcasting, it is very hard to start this up when you are, quote unquote, as the world would say, a nobody. When you are just doing it for fun, but with a destination in mind. People will say, relax. It's never that deep. And that's why I'm endorsing it. Because I've been in contact with the It's Never That Deep podcast. And yes, we will collab in the future. Have they told me that we're going to collab in the future? Absolutely not. But I'm a believer in saying things into existence. You know, fake it till you make it. Typically, you fake it, until you get to the best of the best. But you know what? We're just going to fake it. Because as of right now, we are two podcasts just trying to get off from the bottom. Rocket launch. So please, I want you to go in the description. I want you to click the Spotify or Apple Podcast, whichever is your preference, and take a gander at the most recent episode, The Golden Shower. Funny as hell episode. They reached out to me, and I was like, let me give this a listen. They said they like my stuff. I'm like, let me see if I like your stuff. I liked it more than my stuff. They do me better. Well, pause. I go off and beat to my own meat while they check theirs. And I believe that's like 3 episodes prior. But yes, go check out these guys' podcast. It is amazing. It is great. And we are just 2 collaborators planning to collaborate to expand our audience. And you guys will be why that expands. So yes, I love it. This is like the first step of feeling like you made it, where people actually reach out to you and like your shit. Feels fucking great. But more importantly, I like theirs back. This isn't a Blue Chew endorsement where they're paying me $5,000 to embrace a product that I won't have to take, till 3 years from now. Because, 30. Except I won't be 30 in 3 years. But guys, please. And more importantly, here's what I want you to do even more. And then I'll wrap up this sucking each other's slongs for views and clicks. I want you to go to Apple Podcasts. I want you to leave a review. Shout out to the It's Never That Deep podcast. Because what I love about their podcast is the complete opposite of mine. It's never that deep to them, and everything is that deep to me. And we all know as podcast listeners, what do? We'll listen to one podcast for 25 minutes, go to another, and then come back to that one maybe the next day or later on when whatever. Because sometimes, you just want to change it just to change it. Different perspective on shit. You listen to mine, listen theirs, listen to mine. Alternate between us back and forth. Switch positions. It's fine. Do what you gotta do. But just remember, as much as it's never that deep, it's always that deep. If you want to get really that deep, come here. If you want to get to where it's never that deep, go there. But more importantly, go here. We're 1-2 punch. Speaking of, but more importantly, yes, go check out the podcast. This is a long ass intro. Did not plan to talk this long about another podcast, but it's a great fucking podcast. Go check it out. It's really great. It's funny. It's really funny. We have similar types of humor. We will collab in the future. We will. We will. All right. Welcome to episode 68 of the Off and Beat podcast. I am your host, Clint. What the hell is with love handles? Who came up with the name love handles? Because the ironic part of love handles, no one actually loves them. No one has ever sat with me in a movie theater. No lady has first thing they want to touch is, ooh, let me touch that 235-pound body of yours. In the waist. It's like, no. It's like when I was younger. They used to use terms when you were in your preteen, the teenage years, when you were a bigger fella. They would use words like husky. Oh, wow, you're a big guy. They like to use code words. But you get older and you realize, man, those were not, they were beating around the bush. Right, Sophia? No matter how many one tree is up on the hill, Peyton is never coming. God damn it, Lucas. Lucas! When you really think about One Tree Hill, it's a bunch of fucking teenage whores. They just literally pass around each other like they would on their basketball games. But I digress. Love handles. I have had a decent portion of my body touched by the opposite sex in my lifetime. The top 10 places that are most commonly touched. The love handles, never one of them. And trust me, I've gone through phases where there's a lot more handles to love. See, the thing is, we live in this body positivity world, but I see through all the bullshit. I see through love someone for their body, plus size, negative size models. Love them for their body. Love their imperfections. It's like, you know what? How come every time we lay together and cuddle, you know what you never do? You don't touch the inside of my smelly belly button where it smells like literally in between the gooch and the crotch. It's not what you do. With the little leftover crumbs from when I angel soft earlier after dropping a rice and chicken type of deuce. You know what I'm talking about for those who have been dieting and trying to hit the gym. But the love handles are not the first thing. Like, you know, when they look you in the eyes or they kissing you in the cheek. Let me name all the parts they have that they will probably touch on you as a man before they touch your beautiful love handles. They will probably touch your hands. They will probably touch your hairy chest. They will probably touch your shoulders, maybe your back, middle, upper, lower back. You know what? We'll just call it all one part. They may even touch your quad, your inner thigh, leading up to the man underneath saying, I'm coming up. They'll probably touch your forehead. They'll probably touch your lips. They'll probably even touch your feet. They will touch a lot of things on your body. They are not going to sit there and just pinch your love handles. You know why? One, it's in a weird place. It's a weird place to just sit there and grab and touch. It just is. That's why I see through this body positivity. You know what? Like the girls I don't even want to dumb it down to what girls loving guys and all that shit, right? Because, you know, guys are pretty, shitty towards women in a lot of ways. But this whole, man, I don't need my man to be in shape. I love love handles. Love handles make me wet and turn me on so fucking much. Because, a lot of us single guys out here are the ones with the love handles. Not just love handles, love handles. You could literally grab onto it like, Mufasa was unable to hold on to dear life. You could, if I was up on let's say someone was jumping off a bridge and I saw it, I ran towards them, and as they're jumping off, I grabbed them with my hand, right? And let's say I'm falling down and then all of a sudden it's me hanging off, but they're holding to my feet. And as they're climbing up my body, they could literally use my love handles as I'm pulling us up. Like a rock climbing thing. Like when you go to one of those rock climbing places, those indoor, outdoor climbing things. My love handles are literally one of those indented things that are hanging out. It's just funny to me. Why do we call them love handles? When they are the most unloved, unintended, untouched, unfucked, anything that the opposite sex touches us. I love touching some love handles on a woman, but it's much different. There are positions, there are times and places that I don't want to get graphic today. You can do the math of when us men will touch your love handles. It's probably when there's a lot of love handling, if you get my drift. Oh, Clint, go fuck yourself. Oh, but see, like us men with love handles, we have probably had McDonald's in our recent life. And trust me, we're loving it. But you in return aren't loving it. It's cool though. You know what they say? It's like Grover Cleveland said. He said, if you can't handle my love, don't love what you can't handle. Because if you handle with love, love will handle what love is bare to differ. What does that mean? Absolutely nothing. I have no fucking clue what that means. But you know what it does sound like? It sounds like one of those bullshit quotes that's regurgitated on YouTube comment sections. Where people with random quote, it'll be like, love is in the air, but air is only love when love is in the Mark Twain. It's like, Mark Twain would never write that bullshit. Or they'll put some philosophy. It'll be like a video of a cat becoming friends with a cheetah. Or better yet, a dog becoming friends with the cheetah. Because I saw a fucking video of that today. It will be like, dog is man's best friend. But cheetahs, they'll run. And they'll put Galileo. It's like, no. And no one ever fact checks these people. One of the most overused things, which although this is a true comment, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. Mike Tyson. Great. You know what? That's a quote that applies to a lot of things in this life. You know what? Life sometimes punches you in the face. You thought you had a plan. Life punches you in the face. You get in a car wreck, lose your car, ends up in a river. Life punches you in the face. But how you react to it, right? You had a plan. Part of that plan wasn't your car getting flipped over into the river. And worst of all, you survived. So now you have to live with it. Good luck with that gap insurance. But the point is, it's just regurgitated quotes that don't always apply to anything. Not everything literally applies to that. There are some things you could take for it and apply to real life. But you know what? Everyone has a plan. That's like saying everyone has a plan until, I lost my 8 brothers and sisters in a plane crash. What are you going to do? You got punched in the face. What are you going to do about it? It's like, I'm going to cry and lay in my bed for 5 months. I just lost 8 brothers and sisters. How are you going to react? You can't just sit there and lay in your morals. It's like, kind of can. I lost literally 90% of my family. I think I could sit and cry. I think I could ball up into a ball. It's okay, see, but you know what? No. You can't just sit there and cry because men are supposed to be vulnerable, but we can't cry. We can't deal with pain. Look, I know your wife cheated on you. I know you lost your house. I know that the person you cheated on you with is living in your house. I know you're homeless. But you know, man, you just got to keep your head up. I see something good on the horizon for you. Those people are the absolute fucking worst. It's like, you know what? Even if you do see something great on the horizon for me, shut the fuck up. Because you know what? I don't see it. And just because you say it and you have no proof of evidence, a lot of people say general statements, but literally have nothing. I was like, okay, what did you see? It's like, well, you know, it's just an intuition. God, you know, I prayed to God last night. I prayed to God last night, and he told me that you were going to run into someone in the near future, and they're going to be down on their luck, and you're going to reaffirm them that everything's going to be all right. It's like, oh, really? Because you know what? God kind of forgot me in the memo. Why does he tell everyone but me? Why do we live in a world where we tell everyone but the person that is most directly affected what the fuck's going to happen to them or what's wrong with them? Why? Why do we live in this such passive-aggressive world where we tell everyone around the situation? Like, it's kind of like this whole fucking code of, oh, if you see, like, it's like if you're a friend of someone and you see them cheating on their significant other, and you know their significant other is a decent human being and hasn't done the same action to warrant that reaction of what's happening to them, and you said, well, she's my friend, it's not my business. It's like, yeah, but you know what? It kind of is his. Crazy. Or reverse the tables. Make a man one, woman man. You get the picture. But why? This whole bro code, woman sisterhood, this woman pack. Yeah, you're a pack of wolves just feasting off the misfortune of your own friends. It's crazy to me. But why are we just cool with that? Makes no fucking sense to me. I understand life's not as simple as black and white, yes and no. Am I gay? Am I straight? Do I want my penis or do I not? If I just tuck it in, you know what? Life would be a whole lot easier. Less embarrassment. But you know what? It matters. It matters. Transparency. Life would be so much easier if we see what's on the horizon for someone, for good or bad, why don't we give them a heads up? Like, hey, I know you're homeless on the street, but 2 weeks from now, I saw it. You are going to be back up on your feet. You're going to have a job at this location. But no, it's just general, you know what? We'll pray for you. We know God's got you. And I'll tell you where that irked me the most last night. Sometimes, like we all do, we go through weird YouTube rabbit holes. I remember a month and a half ago, I went on this obsession, which I think started my sleep schedule fuck up. I was watching car crash compilations for like 6 hours straight a night. It gets you. Man, I don't know why. It was more of the obsession or like the, you know, the breaking road rage and all that shit. You know, all those compilations of that shit. I was just obsessed with it. It was just, you know, when you drive every day and stuff, and you come on, you watch videos, you're like, man, how does this shit not happen to me? Like, this shit is so common. You're like, oh my God. Like, you're aware accidents and shit happen, but Jesus Christ, when you watch these YouTube videos, and it's like, oh my fucking God, 40-minute compilation videos, and you're locked in, because you're like, oh my God, this bitch is going to turn right, and then they put the arrows, whoever does the editing, like, watch this, but oh shit, it's the crazy shit. So recently, I've been going last night. It was just last night. One time thing. One night stand. Some of these people probably should have stuck to that curriculum. So I went through this watching courtroom outbursts. Typically, it's people that have been... It'll be like a video of someone in a courtroom when they're, on trial and shit. They're about to be told the verdict, and they're like, do you want to say any last statements? And they'll be like, Judge, you're a faggot. Or they'll look at the victim's mother when they killed their son and be like, your son was a bitch. Like, oh my God, these people are ruthless. Or just these people yelling, just having these episodes, whatever. I went through this rabbit hole for like 5 hours last night. I came across this one video. Very disturbing, the case. The case was a 10-year-old getting impregnated by a 34-year-old guy. Now, the 34-year-old was a live-in boyfriend of the mother. Right? They did the DNA test. Obviously, it's his. Whatever. Well, not whatever. But the weirdest part, well, I shouldn't say weirdest, but she actually gave birth to the baby. As disturbing as the case is, which is pretty disturbing, mothers should be held at fault. Because, thing is, not a great home environment, whatever. Maybe be more careful with random strangers you bring and to raise your child. Crazy thought. But most disturbing was the fucking YouTube comments. The comments. There was this one lady. Well, there was a couple, but I'm going to focus on this one lady. She was saying, all we can do is pray for her. That's all we can do. All we can say is thank God she decided to not kill that baby. Thank God. Because that would be teaching her to murder. She put that in all caps. And of course, people comment under like, so you're okay with, well, she was 11 when she gave birth to the child. So you have no problems with an 11-year-old being given birth to a fucking child? They kept saying, well, God has in the plans what he has in the plans. You know what? I don't think God had in the plans a 34-year-old impregnating a 10-year-old. Just throwing that out there. This isn't a God or anti-God thing. It's just like, if you are going to go down this road, please don't use God in situations that don't work in your favor. Even God's looking down like, hey, I'm not a part of this. I put them there. I can't control. It's open season out here for all the wrong reasons. The worst part is somehow a 10-year-old, 11-year-old having a baby. Somehow this lady thought, you know what? This is the right time to bring God and to remind people that as weird and as fucked up as this situation is, the worst part would have been if she got an abortion. Here's what I think almost all people can agree on. And when you're talking about the abortion bill in Texas, the 6-week rule and all that shit, regardless if you're pro or anti-abortion, and people will say the rule applies to everyone regardless if you were raped and impregnated or whatever. So you're telling me, maybe we make exceptions for things all the time. You're telling me you would not make the exception if your 11-year-old child found out got pregnant by a 34-year-old male. That would not change your process, because you know what you got to think about? Hey, I don't know if my 11-year-old child is ready to raise a kid. I don't even know if they understand the magnitude. You know, when you're 17 or 18, you're more than likely not ready, but you at least kind of understand the magnitude. You've at least lived your childhood. You've at least had the ability to live before X, Y, and Z happened. But a 10-year-old, somehow, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a labor giver, but I'm going to assume a 10-year-old, 11-year-old giving birth to a child, that baby's going to have a lot of health complications. Babies have health complications when you smoke during your pregnancy, drink during your pregnancy, do drugs, when you have pre-existing condition. People with diabetes, women with diabetes can have issues during birth. You're telling me a 10-year-old who literally just started having their period, they're not going to have no complications? And somehow, and you know what you got to tell that kids? Like, hey, I know we failed to set a stable environment so you wouldn't get impregnated by a 34-year-old, but God just sometimes takes it out of your hands and gives you gifts that you didn't know you needed at the time. I feel like a lot of these people would act a little bit different if it happened to their child. And I understand we can't always just make it a selfish and individualistic, a monotheistic view type of thing. But you know what common sense would say? Whether you're for or against abortion, I think we're all against 11-year-olds having children. And it's sad when you have to simplify it and when you have to break it down into stupidity. It's sad that this is even a discussion. And the worst part is she was not the only cunt in the YouTube comment section kind of defending this. Because they will always say it's not the baby's fault. It's not the kid's fault. It's like, yeah, you know what? It also wasn't the 10-year-old kid's fault that a dangerous individual that her mom voluntarily brought into the home and probably at least had some awareness and was probably brought the knowledge like, hey, this guy's been touching me and shit. And nothing was really happening. But whatever. We're going to ignore the mother's role in this altogether. But the worst part, it was not that 10-year-old's fault either. A 10-year-old can't conceivably fight off a 34-year-old. So you can't even bring... most grown women can't fight off a grown male. And that's, sexist. Like, no, it's reality. There's a reason why majority women get raped more than men. There's a reason for that, okay? Not breaking news here. But a 10/11-year-old somehow, well, it's not the child's fault. The child shouldn't suffer. Speaking of the baby in the womb. You're right. The child shouldn't suffer. Both of the children. The literal child that's having the child shouldn't suffer either. You're damaging, literally, again, I'm not a doctor, not a labor giver expert, but I'm assuming a baby coming out of a 10-year-old girl's, be very careful with the word because we are talking about a 10-year-old baby, a full baby coming out of a 10-year-old's wazoo is not exactly great for the body. Just going out on a limb there. Babies don't exactly, as far as I'm aware, babies don't reduce necessarily to the size of the woman. It's not like 300-pound women have 12-pound, 13-pound babies, and 170-pound women have like 6 to 7 pounds. And then 10-year-olds have 2-pound babies. Like, no, if a baby comes out at 2 pounds, probably not going to survive. But we're going to ignore that. It's just crazy to me. And then also during it, if you scroll up and down, of course, words like libtard. See, you libtards don't understand life and babies and all this shit. It's like, again, there's exceptions. You could be pro or against abortion. You know, I think we're all against 10-year-old babies having babies. I think we are. Because guess what? By default, you are going to have to raise that child. And imagine as a mother or a father, which obviously the father's not in the picture, but what do you know? But just imagine as a mother, people say what they want, how fucked up it is. You literally have to look at the creation of a baby that was made because of molestation. And that baby is always going to be known. And it's going to do the math and figure out, oh, I'm a baby that was born out of molestation. Not to get too serious here, just getting under the covers. No one thinks about how fucked up that is. And what bothered me the most was the high defense and the using of religion, which I think even most religious people of God will look at them like, hey, don't bring God into this. Don't. It's like, well, God created us all. So as much as he creates all the great people, he creates all these monsters. It's like, no. Shitty families create monsters. Not entirely. Because you know what? There's great people that come from shitty families and vice versa. But for that to happen, that's an infrastructure problem. That had nothing to do with God. Had nothing to do with it. But whatever. We're going to pivot and talk about our sponsor for today. Don't forget not to get, you guess you could say it's never that deep, but the podcast says, bang, cotton candy. Speaking of cotton, dodgeball. That's a dodgeball reference. What the hell's with the song Cotton Eye Joe? Where's it come from? Where you go? Cotton Eye Joe. I don't even know what the song means. All I know is that there's a dance attached to it. Because, they create a, dance for us lighter skin of complexion to keep up with. Enough tempo and speed to make us feel like, oh, we're doing something here. But not really anything that, really makes, not exactly anything that makes you, impressed. But you know what? We'll just steal other dances and make more money off TikTok. Fine. Trust me, we've mastered that system. But Cotton Eye Joe, I don't even know what it means. I forget who it's by. I think that's crazy to me. I hate to be that guy. It just feels a little racist. Cotton Eye Joe. What does it mean? You're putting cotton in your eye? What's wrong with your eye that you got to put cotton in it? So either we're talking about freaking Jeepers Creepers type of pine straw, Freddy Krueger looking motherfucker in the middle of the cornfields. Or we're talking about something completely different. And I don't even want to go down that road. So I'm going to take it down memory lane. Behind every memory, years ago, I was hitting in the spot. Going down memory lane. You know what they say? Behind every memory, there is something to be forgotten. Wow. Sounds like another one of those pointless Facebook quotes. Behind every memory, there is something to be forgotten. What does that mean? I think it means when you think about all your favorite memories in your life, think about the greatest memory you've ever had. Think about that time you went camping in 2016 with one of your girlfriends or one of your boyfriends. You went into the woods. You went camping one-on-one. Brought some tents. You went to a safe enough area where you're not actually really feeling threatened. But you know what? Enough to feel like you're outdoors. Kind of like the movie Without a Paddle. That type of thing. And you just lived free. You were loving the back of the truck would take you down to the Southern Speaker Zone. Just nothing but fire, wood, Coleman cups, coolers, beer, and just a good old time in the wilderness. There was probably a 3-hour, in that 3-day trip, there was probably at least 3 hours in each day that wasn't really, that spontaneous, wasn't really that great. Where, you know what, didn't really feel like you wanted to be outside. You're like, you know what, it'd be really nice right now. Being in a house, air conditioned, TV, YouTube. Here I am outdoors. And then, maybe a couple hours later, you see a moose fucking a squirrel. I don't know. Talk about Rocky and Bullwinkle. Ha! Oh, he's bull winkling those little winks. Well, twinks, I guess. Or is a twink really Is a twink really a transsexual gay person? I don't know. Why is the T involved? Why can't they just call them winks? Because, like, anytime you see, like, a quote-unquote, what someone would be identified as a twink, which is a weird term within itself. But if we're going to go down this road, let's go down it. It does make you wink a little bit. Like, not in the, ooh, but like, oh. Makes you raise your eyebrows is probably more. But, you know, raise your eyebrows, wink. You have to raise your eyebrows to wink. It just makes you think for a second. How'd you get here? Fair question. Not even anything like, what happened here? But like, man, like, It's almost like, are you afraid to gain weight? Are you afraid to... I've never found anything... I know this comes from the love handle guy. I've never found anything really, really skinny that attractive, me personally. Like, even in a non-perfectly platonic male way, I would never find an overly skinny, twink-looking guy an attractive fella. I don't get it. But hey, I've never had to worry about that. I'm a thick twink. Kidding. I am thick, but not the second part. But neither here nor there. If you think about your favorite memory, is there a lot of fluff that we over-exaggerate to make it our favorite memory? Like, I get it. I'm not saying your memory has had to be perfect from beginning of when the memory happened to end. But, there's levels to memories. And I'm at a loss for words. You know why? Because my memory is shot. You know why? Because memories are fucking overrated. Memories are memories for a reason. People always talk about live in the moment, live free. Don't think about the future. Don't think about the past. Think about right now. Now I'm just like, I don't know. I think that's kind of unreasonable to always just live in the moment. You can't really live in the moment if you're always in the back of your head thinking about, if I keep doing what I'm doing in the moment, where does this lead me up to? And I get the whole philosophy. I get the whole mantra, living in the moment. It literally means stop overthinking shit. If you want to do something, do something. Like, I get it. Just be you. Wake up and be not afraid. Wake up, get out, and be in the moment. Feel alive. Trust me, there's a lot of value in that. The worst thing you can do is worry about the past. But if you completely just put a wall in from the past, how can you ever say that you learned from anything? You can't say, well, I learned from it, but I don't think about it. It's like, that doesn't make sense. Because when situations come up, think about it. If you ran a stop sign and caused a 3-car collision because someone else ran a stop sign, and then the other person was actually following their rules, and you all collide in the middle. You know what? If you didn't learn from that, you're probably going to continuously run stop signs. And every time you hit a stop sign, you know what you're probably going to think of? Man, I hope I'm going to try to avoid a 3-car collision today. And you know what? That's a good thing. Thinking of bad things in the past, you know what? It's kind of a good thing. Because it makes you be smarter. You learn. And learning is a constant thing. Not you learn from it once and it's just like, all right, I did what I could. And you keep doing it, doing the same shit over and over again. Where was I going with this? I never know where I'm going with anybody. Jesus Christ. Oh, yeah. Memories. Oh, living in the moment. You can't ignore the past. And I understand you don't want to look too far in the future. But you know what? You should at least be realistic about what's on the horizon. See what I did there? Oh, I knew I'd tie it back in. Talk about a loophole. Watching a lot of Seinfeld lately, in case you're not getting the theme of this. But if you just... Look, I'm sorry. There's a lot of self-reformation, more confidence when you see there's something on the horizon for you. If you see that's something you've been working on for 6 months, let's just say whatever business, let's say it's about to get picked up, let's say you're about to get paid for something. If you see money's coming in on the horizon, you know what? It's going to make you feel better about yourself. Build confidence. It's going to be like, man, I did something and I'm going to be rewarded for it. Or like if you're looking for a job, if you're looking for a job, it's like, I have interviews on the horizon. It's like, they call for a second. Oh, there's something on the horizon. Someone's building. Like, hey, you are hired. Come in for training. Oh, there are things on the horizon. There are things happening. But there's a balance of living in the moment too. Because if you don't live in the moment, maybe you overthink and you don't apply for jobs. Maybe you overthink and you never wrote that something to get paid for. You get fucked over by these movie companies. Go fuck yourself. But you know what I'm saying. That's why when people just say, people just have this train thing we say. And we do a lot as people. Like we say, oh man, it will get better. You just got to stay the course. You just got to have faith. You're doing great. And it doesn't mean you're disingenuous to say, because I've said it to people and I truly mean it. But it's definitely something I've been trying to say when something has gone astray for someone. When someone is seeking affirmation, when someone is seeking for a pickup, like to pick them up just so they get back on their feet, like literally or figuratively, like, because I made a lot of people cry in the past. Oh, it feels good. Isn't it ironic that you break someone down, you make them cry, feel less themselves, and they ask you to pick them back up? Oh, it's a beautiful world. Toxic masculinity. Beautiful. Y'all beautiful. I miss my toxic side. But you know what? I'm trying to be a better person. You know why? Because I had to learn from the past. I had to look into the future. If I keep being this fuck guy, I don't like using fuck boy. Fuck boy has this weird tendency where it makes you sound like, you fuck boys. But more importantly, fuck boy has this weird mentality that you are literally designed to not bring any benefit, that you are literally everything selfishly motive. When you're a fuck guy, a fuck boy is someone who does everything for selfish purposes, and they don't look at anything beyond whatever happens. They don't understand the repercussions of using girls and making them feel whatever. But a fuck guy knows what they're doing and knows this is what they need. They need this to, for lack of a better word, put calluses on your hand. They need to get stronger for the world. They need to get stronger for how guys are going to treat them. And even though deep down I'm a good guy, you know what? I know what you need. You need me to fuck you over. You need me to use you. But I'm doing it with the sole purpose. I'm doing it and I hope you get mad. It makes you smile. It actually makes me horny when you completely cry over me. Like, yes! But fuckboy will blame you for why you're crying. A fuck guy will look at you and say, you're welcome. And that is episode 68. Episode 68. Wow. Making things happen. Don't forget, like and subscribe, and don't forget, like at the beginning, do not forget. Do it for me. Fine. You know what? Don't do it for me. Do it for the podcast community. We're tired of the biggest podcasts in the world, these highly produced, these highly, that have companies to boost their podcasts up the ranks and put them on playlists and all that shit. And that's great and all. But do this for the small guys. We always talk about small businesses. We always talk about helping the career. We're not asking you for money. We're not one of these bums that ask you for fucking donations when we live in $1 million house. No, we're barely thousandaires. Maybe 10,000aires, depending on who you ask, depending on the week, depending if you're employed or not. We just want your support. Let us be the small podcast you listen to. I understand the biggest in the world. You listen to Joe Rogan, Andrew Schultz, Tom Segura. You listen to Joe Budden podcast. You listen to whatever your subject matter. We listen to the biggest of the biggest. I get it. I don't hate you for it. Let us be the little guys you listen to. Because we may be little today. But, I don't really have anything after that. I guess you could say there's a little to be had. And contaminate the views, contaminate the listens, and go listen. Go listen to Omar and Fanoo. It's never that deep. Because let me tell you, it is. This podcasting game is deep. It is, for the most part, here's, by the way, how when people talk about, right, podcast is very saturated. But it's saturated not necessarily the way you think. Give a little side note, and then we'll sign off in today's episode. This will be the last thing I talk about. Podcasting, let me give you some a little bit. You hear the term, there are 2 million podcasts in the world, right? It's not really there's 2 million podcasts. It doesn't even mean 2 million has been made in the past year. All it means is that since podcasts has been well known and on feeds, there is 2 million podcasts that have been ever made. Now, that sounds like a lot. Sounds like, we're going against 2 million podcasts of all different types. Got a long way up, buddy. Well, about half of those podcasts, like I said, haven't put out an episode in, I believe, 3 or 4 years. That's what the numbers said. So we're literally down to 1 million podcasts that have put out episodes in the past 3 years. In terms of currently active podcasts, this is the number that matters most when we're talking about podcast competition. In terms of an episode, in terms of podcasts that have, did you know half of all podcasts that have ever been created have 5 or less episodes, which basically means they thought it would be fun, they did it, and they didn't see the rewards they wanted, and they just kind of quit. So you cut out the fat, you cut out the people who are just trying to, they didn't really love it. They thought they would like it, or maybe they just didn't. But there was definitely, we're not really in it for the long haul of putting in the work and shit. They just quit for whatever reason, made excuses, cool. There's only, this is the craziest number, 60,000 podcasts that have put out an episode in the past month. It's crazy, which means that there's not really that many that are actively doing this. It's a big misnomer. A lot of people do short series podcasts. You also got to think that there's a lot of people that do podcasts to kind of promote something. They do it temporarily, and they know it's temporary. Some people are through, companies, so the contract comes up. But most people that are still doing it, it's because they love it. It's because they enjoy it. Especially ones like me, ones like Omar and Fanoo. You gotta love it to do this. Because it's hard. It is hard. It's not hard to necessarily do it once you're recording and shit. It is hard to sit there and take the time, especially when you do video, to have it 1.5 hours to upload, and then you gotta think of descriptions, think of titles. There's a lot of pre and post stuff that takes a lot more than you think. It's not a crazy amount. I don't really edit my episodes or nothing. But this stuff, I would say it takes due diligence. And when you have an outside life, when you have jobs and shit, it's a little bit more, you have to manage time. It's definitely something you have to really plan. And I'm not asking for sympathy. No. That's not what we're doing here. But what I am asking you, if you enjoy this show, you will love It's Never That Deep. And I hope to be on that show one day. Hopefully we can work something. Maybe they come on our show if we can work something out. We got to figure out the technology and shit. But I like their humor. It's very similar. They tell a lot of corny jokes. They talk about a lot of similar topics you may hear on here. I even just like reading through descriptions, some episodes I haven't watched yet. They've even covered very similar things I've covered. It was like, wow, this is like a match made in, butterbean heaven. Point is, go in the description. Click on the links. Leave a review for both of us on Apple Podcasts. And listen to our shows. We appreciate the support. Have a great day, guys. This was episode 68 in the Off and Beat podcast. First collab episode. Boy, I want to fucking collapse some cheeks right now. Oh, no. Can I make you feel? I have a fucking phone interview at 3:15 p.m. tomorrow. For a 15-minute phone interview. This is like a phone interview for a job that involves rugs. What are you going to know about me over the phone in 15 minutes? I don't know. I'm excited. It's about to get out there in the workforce and, not be a bum. So, yeah. All right, guys. Have a great day. Oh, yeah, did I mention don't forget to go check out It's Never That Deep. See? Doing this podcast too long. Should have stopped. All right, guys. Have a great day. Should have just made a separate intro.